All India Radio presents Morning News. Good morning. I am Meenakshi Sant and with me is Vaibhav Jyotsna Srivastav. The headlines. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to share his thoughts in Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio at 11 a.m. today. Government releases Unlock 4 guidelines. Metro services to resume from September the 7th. Schools and colleges to remain closed till 30th of September. Health Minister Harshvardhan says India has one of the lowest COVID fatality rates in the world. Odisha government lifts lockdown in 7 cities where JEE and NEET exams are to be held. Enforcement Directorate raids firms running Chinese betting apps, freezes around 47 crore rupees in 4 bank accounts. And India withdraws from multilateral military exercise in Russia next month. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will share his thoughts with the people in the country and abroad in the Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio at 11 a.m. today. It will be the 68th episode of the monthly radio program. It will be broadcast on the entire network of AIR and Doordarshan and also on AIR News website www.newsonair.com and News on AIR mobile app. It will also be streamed live on the YouTube channels of AIR, DD News, PMO and Information and Broadcasting Ministry. AIR will broadcast the program in regional languages immediately after the Hindi broadcast. The regional language versions will be repeated at 8 in the evening. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has said that agriculture has a major role to contribute in Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan and self-reliance in agriculture targets at making farmers, producers as well as entrepreneurs.
जब हम कृषि में आत्मनिर्भरता की बात करते हैं तो ये सिर्फ खाद्यान्न तक ही सीमित नहीं है बल्कि ये गांव की पूरी अर्थव्यवस्था की आत्मनिर्भरता की बात है। ये देश के अलग अलग हिस्सों में खेती से पैदा होने वाले उत्पादों में वैल्यू एडिशन करके देश और दुनिया के बाजारों में पहुंचाने का मिशन है।
Speaking after inaugurating the college and administration buildings of the Rani Lakshmibai Central Agricultural University, Jhansi, through video conference yesterday, Mr. Modi said self-sufficiency in agriculture is not limited to food only. Rather, it is about self-sufficiency of the entire economy of the village. He said, in line with this spirit, several historical agricultural reforms were taken. Just like other industries, now farmers can also sell their produce anywhere in the country, wherever they fetch better prices. He said a special dedicated fund of 1 lakh crore rupees has been set up for providing better facilities and promoting industries in a cluster-based approach. Talking about the steps to minimize the problems faced by the people during the coronavirus pandemic, Mr. Modi said free rations are being provided to crores of poor and rural families in Uttar Pradesh.
The Home Ministry has issued new guidelines for opening up of more activities in areas outside the containment zones. In Unlock 4, which will come into effect from the 1st of September, the process of phased reopening of activities has been extended further. Metro rail will be allowed to operate with effect from the 7th of September in a graded manner by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Ministry of Railways in consultation with the Home Ministry. Standard Operating Procedure SOP in this regard will be issued by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. Social, academic, sports, entertainment, cultural, religious, political functions and other congregations will be permitted with a ceiling of 100 persons from the 21st of September. However, such limited gatherings can be held with mandatory wearing of face masks, social distancing, provision for thermal scanning and hand wash or sanitizers. Open-air theatres will be permitted to open with effect from the 21st of September. The Home Ministry said after extensive consultation with states and union territories, it has been decided that schools, colleges, educational and coaching institutions will continue to remain closed for students and regular class activity up to 30th of September. Online or distance learning shall continue to be permitted and shall be encouraged. Lockdown will continue to be implemented strictly in the containment zones till the 30th of September. All activities shall be permitted outside containment zones except cinema halls, swimming pools, entertainment parks, theatres, excluding open-air theatre and similar places and international air travel of passengers except as permitted by the Home Ministry. There will be no restriction on interstate and intrastate movement of persons and goods. No separate permission or approval or e-permit will be required for such movements. The Home Ministry advised states not to impose any local lockdown outside the containment zones. National directives for COVID-19 management shall continue to be followed throughout the country with a view to ensure social distancing. Shops will need to maintain adequate physical distancing among customers. The Home Ministry will monitor the effective implementation of the national directives. Vulnerable persons, persons above 65 years of age, persons with comorbidities, pregnant women and children below the age of 10 years are advised to stay at home except for meeting essential requirements and for health purposes. The ministry said that states and union territory governments may permit up to 50% of teaching and non-teaching staff to be called to the schools at a time for online teaching or tele-counselling and related work. Students of classes 9th to 12th may be permitted to visit their schools in areas outside the containment zones only on a voluntary basis for taking guidance from their teachers. This will be subject to the written consent of their parents or guardians according to the guidelines. Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan has said that India has one of the lowest global COVID fatality rates. Chairing the 20th meeting of the high-level group of ministers GOM on COVID-19 in New Delhi, he said the country's case fatality rate is at its lowest, that is 1.81%. Dr. Harshvardhan said the recovery rate of COVID cases in the country has reached to 76.47%. He said only 0.29% of cases are on ventilators, 1.93% on ICU, and only 2.88% of cases are on oxygen. The minister informed the GOM that more than 338 lakh of N95 masks, nearly 135 lakh of PPEs, and about 27,000 ventilators have been provided by the centre to the states and union territories. Health Minister instructed officials to develop standard operating procedures, SOPs, for the members of Parliament and the Legislative Assembly sessions comprising COVID protocols and preventive measures. The GOM also expressed concern about the forthcoming festival seasons and advised everyone to adopt safe and COVID-appropriate behaviour. The chairperson of the Empowered Group 1 on Medical Emergency Management Plan, Dr. Vinod K. Paul, apprised the GOM of the process of COVID vaccine development in India and around the world. He stated that 29 candidates, including 2 Indian ones, are in clinical trials, out of which 6 are in phase 3. In India, Bharat Biotech's vaccine candidate, based on inactivated virus procured by ICMR, is in phase 2 trial, along with Zydus Cadilla's candidate, which is based on viral DNA. The Oxford vaccine candidate, developed by Serum Institute of India, is already in phase 3 trial in Maharashtra and some other states. Dr. V.K. Paul also informed the GOM of the progress made by the National Expert Group on Vaccine Administration for COVID-19. During the meeting, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Singh Puri, Shipping Minister Mansukh Lal Mandaviya, Minister of State for Health Ashwini Kumar Chaubey, and Minister of State for Home Nityanand Rai were also present on the meeting.
Union Home Secretary and Health Secretary jointly reviewed the measures for containing spread of COVID-19 infection in the Union territories yesterday. These UTs are Puducherry, Lakshadweep, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and Dadra and Nagar Haveli and Daman and Diu. Both the secretaries advised the senior officers of all these duties to ensure that the administrative officers, medical professionals, paramedical staff and other people associated with containing spread of COVID-19 infection and management of COVID-19 situation work in close tandem. The Union territories were advised to ramp up COVID testing facilities, maintain effective surveillance for early identification of COVID-positive cases, effective contact tracing, augmenting house-to-house surveillance by medical teams and enforcement of containment measures in the containment zones. The UTs were also advised to ensure enforcement of precautionary measures like maintaining social distancing, sanitizing and wearing of masks. Tribal Affairs Minister Arjun Munda has said that Andaman and Nicobar Islands administration has taken several steps to protect the vulnerable tribal groups from the COVID-19 pandemic. He said officials from the ministry are in regular touch with local administration and Port Blair, working for the welfare of indigenous tribal groups in the island. There are 6 notified scheduled tribes in the islands. Except Nicobarese, rest of the 5 tribes, the Great Andamanese, Jaraba, Senetalese Onge and Shompen are recognized as vulnerable tribal groups. Jaraba have been advised to stay in smaller groups to avoid any possible spread in an event of COVID-19 outbreak. Some Andamanese tribals have been tested positive with mild symptoms or are asymptomatic, out of which 3 tribals have recovered and remaining are in GB Pant Hospital as an abundant precaution or in home isolation.
India has crossed a new peak of conducting 4 crore tests till date. During the last 24 hours, more than 9,28,000 tests were conducted. The Health Ministry said with focused, consistent and coordinated efforts led by the centre and implemented by the state and union territories, India has set a new landmark of testing 4,04,609 people. The ministry said the national positivity rate has remained low at 8.57% and is constantly falling down. It is only by aggressive testing that positive cases are identified at an early stage. Their close contacts can be promptly tracked and isolated. The Health Ministry said there are as many as 1,576 labs in the country, including 1,002 labs in the government sector and 574 private labs for conducting the tests.
We had made remarkable progress in the development of these new labs. So today our number of labs stands at 1,576 with over 1,000 labs in the government sector. During this month we crossed the 1 million test mark, and yesterday itself we tested 9,28,761 patients in a single day all over the country. We have already crossed the 4 crore mark on the total number of tests that we have done all over the country to diagnose patients with COVID.
You are listening to the morning news on All India Radio. A reminder of the headlines before we move on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to share his thoughts in Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio at 11 a.m. today. Government releases Unlock 4 guidelines. Metro services to resume from September 7th. Schools and colleges to remain closed till the 30th of September. Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan says India has one of the lowest COVID fatality rates in the world. Odisha government lifts lockdown in 7 cities where JEE and NEET exams to be held. Enforcement Directorate raids firms running Chinese betting apps, freezes around 47 crore rupees in 4 bank accounts. And India withdraws from multilateral military exercise in Russia next month. For quick news updates round the clock, follow us on our Twitter handle @AIR News Alerts.
Odisha government has said that there will be no lockdown in the entire state for 12 days till September the 14th in 2 phases to ensure smooth conduct of JEE and NEET exams. The state government said that there will be no lockdown or shutdown in force from August 30th to September the 7th in the first phase and from September 12th to 14th in the next phase. The move is aimed at facilitating free movement of candidates and their guardians, examination personnel and staff representatives of the service providers for the smooth conduct of the exams. However, COVID-19 protocols will have to be strictly followed, it said. The JEE is scheduled to be held between September the 1st and 6th and the NEET on September the 13th. Chief Secretary A.K. Tripathi has announced that the state government will provide free transport and accommodation to students appearing in the examinations, but they will have to register beforehand to avail this facility. He said 37,000 candidates are likely to sit for the examination at 26 centres spread across 7 towns, including Bhubaneswar and Cuttack. Maharashtra Higher and Technical Education Minister Uday Samant has said that a decision about modalities of final year examinations will be announced tomorrow. The Supreme Court on Friday held that students of final year cannot be promoted without holding examinations. Speaking to reporters, Mr. Samant said that Chief Minister Uddhav Thackeray has asked his ministry to conduct examinations with utmost precaution and in a simplified manner. He said a 6-member committee headed by Dr. Suhas Pirnekar, Vice-Chancellor of Mumbai University, has been formed to give recommendations about how to conduct examinations. He also appealed that misleading reports about examination schedules should not be spread and the government will announce dates at the right time.
Schools have been closed for months due to the corona pandemic, and the government is making all efforts to connect children with education. Children are being taught through online classes, radio school, WhatsApp groups and DigiLab. Although there are many children who do not have a smartphone and internet connection, the Radio School of All India Radio is proving to be a boon for them. Here is a special report.
Chincholi block of Baitul district is an area where there is no smartphone, no internet, no TV, nor parents have money to buy radio sets. In such a situation, Raju Athnere, the teacher of the secondary school Jamli, comes forward to help the children. He brought 16 FM radio sets from his salary and handed them over to Chincholi and Patakheda Jan Shiksha Kendra. Due to his initiative, children started their studies through radio school.
गरीब तबके के बच्चों को एक शिक्षा का कोना उपलब्ध कराया और वहाँ कक्षाएं संचालित की जा रही है और हमारे अधिकारी लोग हमको भरपूर सहयोग कर रहे हैं.
Block Resource Coordinator Deepak Mahale has also praised the efforts of teacher Raju Athnere.
ये संसाधन नहीं होने से उन्हें इस मोहल्ला क्लास रेडियो सेंटरों से जोड़ा गया. 283 रेडियो सेंटर मोहल्ला क्लास के शुरू कराए.
When the whole world has come to a standstill in this pandemic period, All India Radio is reaching out to every home with news, education, information and entertainment. With Mayank Bhargav from Baitul, Sanjeev Sharma, AIR News, Bhopal.
In Gujarat, 1,282 new cases of COVID-19 were recorded during the last 24 hours. Our correspondent reports that the recovery rate has further improved to 80.59%. We have a report.
More than 21,95,000 tests have been carried out in the state till date. Out of 1,282 new cases, the maximum 181 new cases reported from Surat. At present, 15,230 active cases in the state, out of which 89 patients are on ventilator. 1,111 patients have been discharged from various hospitals after recovery. 13 patients have lost their lives yesterday. Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation has added 18 new areas in micro-containment zone following detection of new cases. Yogesh Pandya, AIR News, Ahmedabad.
In Bihar, COVID-19 recovery rate has improved to 87%, which is 10% more than the national average. With the recovery of 2,629 people in the last 24 hours, a total of 1,15,074 patients have recovered from the infection in the state so far. Active cases are declining following rise in recovery. 17,181 patients are undergoing treatment in various hospitals at present. Positive cases mounted to 1,32,935 after 2,087 fresh cases were detected in the past 24 hours. Maximum 315 cases were reported from Patna, followed by 104 each in Gopalganj and Araria. The death toll due to COVID-19 in the state has risen to 679. The number of testings has crossed 29,89,000 in the state. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath has asked all district magistrates and chief medical officers to meet twice a day to provide better medical facilities to COVID patients. He said morning meetings should be held in COVID hospitals and evening meetings in Integrated Command and Control Center, ICCC. Chief Minister was reviewing a high-level meeting on COVID-19 at Lucknow yesterday. He also ordered more aggressive contact tracing, surveillance and door-to-door survey in the state. More from our correspondent.
Additional Chief Secretary Health Amit Mohan Prasad told that 1,48,147 samples were tested yesterday. The total number of the active cases in the state has reached 53,360, out of which 2,403 in private hospitals and 262 patients are in semi-paid facility. The rest of the corona patients are taking treatment in L1, L2 and L3 corona hospitals. Weekly COVID-19 restrictions, which started at 10 p.m. on Friday, are continued and will end 5 a.m. tomorrow. During the weekly closure on Sunday and Saturdays, the work of sanitization in the market takes place. MS Yadav, EIR News, Lucknow.
Tamil Nadu Chief Minister Edappadi Palaniswamy discussed the prevailing COVID-19 situation with all the district collectors yesterday. The meeting was held through video conferencing. Later, he consulted the members of the State Medical Experts panel at the Secretariat in Fort St. George, Chennai. The state witnessed 6,352 new cases yesterday, the first time to exceed the 6,000 mark after about 30 days. Over 6,000 people have recovered in the past 24 hours, taking the total recoveries to more than 3.55 lakh. Our correspondent reports that the death toll yesterday has seen a marginal dip at 87.
With the centre coming out with its guidelines on the Unlock 4, the state government is expected to issue the order specifying the nature of relaxations that will come into effect from September 1. The information on the ground realities at district levels have been gathered in the interaction of the Chief Minister with the collectors. The panel of medical experts have also made known their interpretation of the medical data to help the government take a call on the next phase of the unlock. Meanwhile, the Madras High Court has decided to go ahead with the physical hearing of cases partially from the 7th September. Other benches will continue to hear cases virtually. Jai Singh, AIR News, Chennai.
The Ballari District Hospital in Karnataka has attained the rare distinction of delivering 101 babies of COVID-19 positive mothers in 2 months. The district surgeon of Ballari Government Hospital, Dr. N. Basareddy, informed AIR that among the 101 deliveries made by the hospital, 72 were through caesarean section and 28 were normal. A report.
Since for the last 2 months, from June 25th, the first case delivery occurred. The difficult cases which were delivered are health syndrome, that is the multiple problems patient will have, and then eclampsia cases, patients with convulsions, and some of the patients with hypertension, some of the patients with abnormal presentation, like the breech is coming out. The babies also we were tested corona test, out of which 5 babies have come positive, and all the cases, both mother and baby, both are fine and recovered. Everyone sent home.
In Jammu and Kashmir, 3 terrorists were killed in an encounter with security forces in Panta Chowk area of Srinagar late last night. The gunfight broke out after terrorists opened fire on a joint naka of police and CRPF. One assistant sub-inspector of J&K police also attained martyrdom. The identity of the slain terrorist is being ascertained.
In Odisha, floodwaters have already affected more than half the districts, especially in the low-lying areas. This was caused by the continuous rainfall in the state during the last week, coupled with heavy rainfall inflow into the river Mahanadi, the largest in Odisha, from its upper catchment areas in neighbouring Chhattisgarh. A report.
With Hirakud Dam just short of brimming to its capacity at 630 feet, excess water now being released to river Mahanadi is likely to impact the areas downstream. Coastal districts, which comprise the delta region of the river system, are likely to experience inundation of varying degrees in certain areas if the excess water breaches across to human habitation. A couple of places in some of these districts have already suffered submergence, snapping road communication. Meanwhile, water levels in other major rivers like Brahmani, Baitarani, Budha Balanga and Subarnarekha are slowly slowly easing out. The state administration has deployed NDRF, Odisha Disaster Rapid Action Force team for any rescue and relief operations. Side by side with damage control, damage assessment is also underway for the government to compensate for the losses that has befallen the flood-affected people. Girish Chandra Das, Bhubaneswar.
In Madhya Pradesh, due to heavy rains, around 400 villages in 9 districts have suffered moderate to severe floods. More than 9,000 people trapped in the floods were rescued and taken to a safe place. 170 relief camps have been set up for food relief, where all necessary arrangements have been made, including food and medicines.
Enforcement Directorate ED has frozen around 47 crore rupees of companies involved in running Chinese online betting apps. The agency had on Friday conducted searches at 15 locations spread across Delhi, Gurgaon, Mumbai and Pune under the provisions of Prevention of Money Laundering Act in a case related to illegal betting. It said searches were conducted on the registered offices of the companies, their directors and chartered accountants involved in illegally running online betting apps from websites which are hosted from outside India. India has announced that it is withdrawing from multilateral military exercise Kavkas 2020 to be held in Russia next month. The Defence Ministry said Russia and India are close and privileged strategic partners, and at Russia's invitation, India has been participating in many international events. However, in view of the pandemic and consequent difficulties in exercise, including arrangement of logistics, India has decided not to send a contingent this year to Kavkas 2020.
The Ashura Muharram is being observed with due reverence and solemnity in various parts of the country today. There will be no large-scale traditional Taziyah processions in view of the COVID-19 pandemic.
And now, let us look at today's weather. The national capital, Delhi, is likely to witness thunderstorm with rain. The minimum temperature will be 26 degrees Celsius and the maximum will be 33 degrees. Mumbai will have generally cloudy sky with moderate rain. The temperature is likely to hover between 25 degrees Celsius and 30 degrees Celsius. Chennai is likely to witness partly cloudy sky. The minimum will be 27 degrees Celsius, while maximum temperature could reach 36 degrees Celsius. Kolkata may have a partly cloudy sky with possibility of moderate rain or thunderstorm. The minimum temperature will be 28 degrees Celsius, while the maximum is expected to be 35 degrees. On to the north, in the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, the minimum temperature will be 24 degrees Celsius in Jammu, while the maximum will be around 33 degrees. The city will have a mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. In Srinagar, the temperature will hover between 15 degrees and 28 degrees Celsius. The city is likely to have a mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. In Gilgit, the minimum temperature will be 17 degrees and maximum will be 28 degrees. It is likely to witness mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards the afternoon or evening. Muzaffarabad will have mainly clear sky, becoming partly cloudy towards afternoon or evening. The minimum temperature will be 20 degrees Celsius and the maximum is expected to be 34 degrees Celsius. And now an overview of today's newspapers. It's over to Vaibhav Jyotsna Srivastav.
The removal of more restrictions in the Unlock 4 guidelines dominates the headlines of most news dailies today. Metro from September 7th functions with a cap of 100 from September 21st, reports the Times of India. The Hindustan Times adds class 9th to 12th kids can visit schools for guidance, no state lockdowns without centre's nod. Many newspapers have also reported on the GST compensation for states. The Indian Express reports centre gives states 2 options, easier terms for lower borrowing. The Hindu reports centre must borrow and pay states GST dues, says Kerala. The Hindustan Times reports on its front page, Jaishankar says strain on LAC peace to impact ties. The Times of India adds India pulls out at the military drill with Chinese and Pak troops. And finally, the Times of India reports chip in pig's brain save memories, adding that tech billionaire Elon Musk has revealed his human brain-machine interface in greater detail, this time in pigs that had prototypes of chips implanted in their heads and their brain activity tracked in real time.
And now, before we end the bulletin, the headlines once again. Prime Minister Narendra Modi to share his thoughts in Mann Ki Baat program on All India Radio at 11 a.m. today. Government releases Unlock 4 guidelines. Metro services to resume from September the 7th. School and colleges to remain closed till 30th of September. Health Minister Harshvardhan says India has one of the lowest COVID fatality rates in the world. Odisha government lifts lockdown in 7 cities where JEE and NEET exams are to be held. Enforcement Directorate raids firms running Chinese betting apps, freezes around 47 crore rupees in 4 bank accounts. And India withdraws from multilateral military exercise on Russia next month. And with that, we end the morning news. Have a nice day.